is wealthier than 2/3 of the world. We are proof that when people have access to bounty, to electricity, to clean water, they don't just run wild and overpopulate the planet and ruin it. When the global syndicate wiped out the middle class in 1929 for their own whim, just because they just smashed the whole world because they didn't want the middle class playing in their backyard. That mindset has to end. Brad is correct. This new economy, I don't know if it's a gold-backed currency or a totally different system of trade that doesn't even require currency to make a trade between value and energy. But something has to happen to end that paradigm.
So how much is the inner work? I mean, people need to do the inner work to break the agreements and ties and hooks with the old system, the cabal, where they have unconsciously been giving their power away or willingly without really knowing the layers beneath that are incredibly dark and nefarious. So there's, that inner work aspect. Where could you help guide people on what are the most detrimental beliefs that we could be holding right now? And what makes this administration different than other ones? Because a lot of people are like, how could anybody even have faith in this president or this administration? All presidents are compromised, and both sides of any political party are owned by the cabal. So 2 questions, and whichever one jumps out to you. Where would you direct people to release themselves the most in doing their inner work? And what makes this administration different than the rest or what we've seen in a long time?
Well, the main thing that makes the administration different, go back to the inauguration. When President Trump said, this is not the peaceful transition of power from one political party to another. This is the transfer of power from Washington, D.C. back to you, the people. That's not a political party. That's not a political party. That's what's made it all different. And that's why they hate him so badly, because he's taking apart the structure, the Tower of Babel that they have built. He's tearing it apart. And I think that's the main difference. He's empowering us.
Right. And because we're not, promoting a political party in this talk, we are empowering humans to know that the power is more in our hands and in the hands of the people than it's ever been for a long time, is what basically you're saying.
Yeah, it's only been barely 3 years, and they've been beating the hell out of him every day for those 3 years. So.
I know. What about you, Brad and Dan?
Yeah, well, he survived the Mueller investigation, nothing there. He survived the impeachment, nothing there. This is the last thing they have to go after him to collapse the economy and blame it on him. But it's their final bullet, because the economy, the fake fiat currency economy, is what they depend upon. Look, at first I thought Donald Trump, he wasn't in the military. He's never held public office. How is he qualified to do this? But now that we see we have a complete outsider coming in here to shake up the system, who took no lobbyist money when he was running for election, so he's beholden to no one. If you think about it, he is the perfect candidate to do this kind of major transition, and also to erase the national debt. He's very good at bankruptcy restructuring. And I think he was approached by the military a few years before 2016 election and had agreed to be the guy to do it, because he has benefited and believes and loves his country, to be the head of the military to take this whole cabal out. And you're right, Brooks, that's why they hate him so much, because they can't control him. So this is a really interesting period to see if he's going to come out of this, because the other day he gave a press conference. He wasn't looking too happy. I think there are people that are trying to control him. But did you guys catch it yesterday? He said at a news conference, he called the State Department the Deep State Department. So he's starting to call them out now. I love it.
I love those little slips. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those clips.
And the thing that I can't stand is that people are going to probably go under this video and just be like, I can't believe, you act like you're pro-Trump supporters. And people need to just really lay off. And I guess that's, part of what I feel the inner work needs to be, is that people step back and see a much, much larger picture. Anyway, I wanted your comments too, Dan, on, you know, just what do you feel makes this administration different? And thank you so much for your answers, Brooks and Brad.
Now,
It's
pay
like,
no attention
so
to
glad
the
you guys
Keep
are here
America
today.
Great Again hats in the background.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, pay no attention to the Keep America Great Again hats in the background here.
Right. Yeah.
You bring up a really good point here, all of you, especially Laura, on the idea about, we're not a bunch of right-wing Trump supporters on here. We are people who are against deception. We're people that are for truth. And what Trump represents is something much larger than just a political party, like Brooks was saying. This is about returning control of our planet.
Yes, and that's what we need more than anything else. And we you know, people need to just kind of like not go into all the flaws. I mean, it's that whole throwing the last. I mean, none of us are perfect. We are healing a tremendous amount of trauma from our history, a lot of infiltration of bloodlines, of, you know, pretty much every power structure under the sun has some level of manipulation or falsity. I mean, empowerment is everything, because we have what it takes to heal, to rise above, and to be more co-creative and directive of our futures and what's in front of us. So, you know, the importance of like the inner work though, and bringing it back to ourselves, and this whole concept of ascension. Do you feel this is something that's just naturally unfolding and people better just catch up, or is it an inner initiation that's going to bring about seeing a timeline that reflects back to us the inner progress that we're making? Because I just see so much pettiness, and it just, and I think it's because we're in a sort of a growth period and a crisis as a human race. But what do you think the most important things to focus on right now, while we don't have maybe the exact answers?
Well, for one thing, I don't think ascension is natural. I think that the natural thing for man to do, at least at this point in time, is to be greedy and to think about yourself. It is a time for great teachers to step forward and teach people about ascension and what it means. And I think there's never really been a time, maybe the last 4 or 5 years, that teachers who know what ascension is, you don't have to die to ascend, can go out and teach people, can hit this forum right here that we're doing right now and reach people and tell them that there's hope. It isn't natural. It's a little bit of a outside your comfort zone, but once you're in it, once you realize you're on the path, it totally changes your life. It changes all your priorities.
It seems like we're getting out of confinement though. I always look at the metaphor of we're being given the key to like leave the zoo cage, but people are afraid of their natural habitat because it's been so long that it's almost the most natural thing to us is not something we easily embrace because we're so used to being told what to think. But yeah, that's why it doesn't really feel natural. What are your thoughts, Brad and Dan?
As we enter this age of ascension, it's a wonderful opportunity to witness all this. Grab the popcorn, because this is the greatest show on earth. And I think the ET races who are very interested in Earth are also looking at what's going to happen here, what is happening here, with great fascination. How could they not be? This is a race, as I mentioned. We're in this Star Trek timeline, this ability for the humans to finally get it together here on Earth, to rid ourselves of these roadblocks, and then to join them in a peaceful understanding and save this planet and make it healthy again, make ourselves healthy again. This is our opportunity. This is it. If we have a role to play, as you said, Brooks, as people who can help make sense of all this to a lot of people who are going to be incredibly shell-shocked by all this information that we've been all talking about for years and we're quite accustomed to, including the darkness in our own human race and some of the things they've done to even see some of the people that we thought were really good people being involved in this. Well, it's just the way it's got to be. And this is just, we're just going to let the cards fall where they may. And at the backside of all this, help interpret how it came to be this way and how we move on. And I really hope that we can be like South Africa after apartheid and just have truth and reconciliation, honest trials for these people rather than a lynch mob going out and stringing them up. Because if we do it that way, then we're as bad as they are, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we have to take the higher road here, even when we start to hear how bad the crimes have been. We still have to take a higher road here. And look, Harvey Weinstein's going to be in jail for the rest of his natural life. He got what he deserved. And in some ways, sitting in a jail cell in a total hopeless situation, in some ways that's worse than the death penalty, because you're just going to have to ruminate about what you've done to people for the rest of your natural life. And look, he was very accustomed to a very luxurious lifestyle. Now he's sitting in a jail cell.
Yeah.
So there are ways to turn this around, and the bad guys will get what's coming to them.
Absolutely. So Dan, what are your thoughts on just the, the whole concept of ascension? I know it's been somewhat steered off into some sort of deceptive belief systems that maybe haven't allowed us to hold ourselves accountable enough. But what are your thoughts, though, about this ascension shift, or just the whole concept of that word? And
well, each one of us is, everyone that's listening to this and beyond is contributing to this collective reality that we're all in. It's been like a slow leak drip process that's been going on for some time through the internet, through different things. And a lot of people just watch, CNN, MSNBC, read the New York Times, but there's little glitches in the matrix that's happening. And so many glitches are happening that it's, instead of a drip, it's going to be turning into a flood. When I went to Washington, and after the years after, I became aware that, oh my God, the complete mainstream media is controlled. All of our representatives in Washington are pretty much, out of the loop. Everybody who should be in the loop is out of the loop. How, with all of this completely under their control, how could the situation ever change? And I felt a feeling of despair, because this is just going to perpetuate, because they control our perceptions, they control our government. It wasn't until the Q post started coming out that I realized that oh my God, there is a white hat military operation, and there is a global awakening that's happening. And we're right on the threshold of something incredibly wonderful to happen to this planet, to liberate it.
I totally agree. And there's just no other way to go. I mean, I think people go into a place of doom and depression and, anger at times, but that's just a part of the processing. And eventually, there's clarity, above the bumpy clouds, we get clearer skies if we can just keep pushing through and not give up on ourselves, because the human potential is something we've been kept from. The fact that we have advanced DNA that we haven't embodied in a long time, that is there. So I can't believe we've only been talking for an hour. We cover a lot of material. Is there any questions or things when you thought about coming to this roundtable that any of you thought to yourself, wow, I'd really, love to bring up this topic, and it's really, relevant? I know we covered quite a bit, but anything kind of jumping out for any of you guys?
Well, I want to encourage people that are watching this. These are tough times. These are strange times. We haven't been here before. I often teach my kids, look, the way to do this is put yourself out in the future a little bit, and then look back at this and say, that wasn't that bad. That was a little strange, sitting around the house eating popcorn, got fat a little bit, but had more sex than I thought I was going to have in a long time. But hey, it wasn't that bad. So put yourself out in the future, look back at it, and you'll have a different attitude here in the present. It's not going to be that bad. We're going to make it through this together.
Totally beautiful. So anything kind of come to your thoughts about what we could maybe discuss, or anything that you feel relevant to share?
I just wanted to comment on what Brooke said, because I love that idea of looking from the future, looking back. The children of the future looking back at the challenges the human race had to do on this planet with this Kabbalah, whatever you want to call it, and how it was liberated. They're going to be reading about this in the history books in the future,
They're
if
part
they
of the
have
history.
even have books in the future.
Oh, there's no doubt that 2020
Don't
will,
say that.
2020 will go down in history. It'll be a year that little babies who are born right around now will remember this time and what their parents and grandparents went through. It's going to be that bellwether year. I can't even think back in history of such a moment. Look, we're not even 3 months into 2020 yet, and all the things that have happened and that are transpiring to happen. So this is all part of this great awakening that we're seeing take place. One topic that we talked about at the last roundtable that I think is worth reviewing again is all the predictive programming that went into this Wuhan virus that got released. And I do think there is ample evidence that it was a bioweapon. And we talked about several different predictive programming events that we've seen or leading up to this. One of them was this Dean Koon's book called The Eyes of Darkness that came out in 1981. We're talking about 39 years ago. And I pulled up this excerpt from the book on page 333. I'll quote, "They call the stuff Wuhan 400 because it was developed at their rDNA labs outside the city of Wuhan. And it was the 400th viable strain of man-made microorganisms created at that research center." And in the book, this bioweapon that was released on the world was called the Wuhan 400. Now that is just way too much to be a coincidence right there. That the
Talk about
Simpsons
putting
had an
yourself out in the
episode about
future.
releasing a Chinese virus. I mean, there's so many other, even some other books that had predicted this virus coming out of China. So when you put in the whole predictive programming into this too, it then shows you that the elite have been planning this, that Bill Gates did the 201, was doing a virus outbreak, even a coronavirus outbreak practice in October 2019, before any of this happened. So it's very interesting that we see all this stuff coming out before it happens. And that's the nature of what predictive programming is all about.
Right. Even the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash was in a cartoon. I think
That's right.
Simpsons. Dan, what were you going to say? Just any particular questions pop up as far as, what we might not have covered yet? I've got definitely one or two more questions.
Regarding the transformative technologies that could be released, we know that microwave radiation is not healthy for biological organisms. And you have to think about, in the secret space programs, are they using cell phones up to their head like that? I kind of doubt it. As technology evolves, we become more aware of what works in harmony with biological organisms and what doesn't. And I think, I see a world where the entire grid is going to be disassembled. Everything's going to have its own energy device. We're going to have communicated technologies that don't use microwave radiations, which is not healthy. Rockets are going to be an antique of the past. Everything is going to be much greater than anything we've ever seen in science fiction.
What I love about just empowering all this, because this is such an incredible day to really put it out there, because when we speak it, it becomes a reality. Our abilities to manifest really come through our voice. That's what this 5D ascension was really, about, is getting an empowered throat chakra again. Can you hear? So that we're speaking truth, and that frequency is shifting the collective instead of allowing the viruses to be spread through the words we choose to speak, because we're attaching ourselves to a programming or a propaganda that ultimately isn't healthy. So we generate either the virus or the truth. And through being authentic, even if others don't agree, that vibration alone can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So even if we all don't agree, just being in our authenticity and that vibration is huge. But I tend to agree with everything that you all have said.
It's
I
true.
think
I
it's
do
That's how
agree,
that
and I've learned
ability
so
to
much from
resonate.
what you've all shared.
Yes.
What'd you say?
Well, I
said-
think it's not only important to speak these words, it's important to write them down.
Mhm.
We should keep a future book, a future journal, and we should put these things in that journal because it sets a stake in the ground in the future to which we can tie that lifeline.
Totally.
Yeah. Laura, I actually did that. On the webmatrix.net, I put a link to Imagine This, where people, like Brooks was saying, children in the future reading back, and I did like a historical visualization so that somebody could read this, and while they're reading it, they're imagining this in their imagination. Imagination is extremely powerful in affecting the collective reality. And so, of course, it was a happy ending in the best way possible. And, you know, just the exercise of imagining and visualizing everyone who is listening and imagining this reality. It's not based on something that is, you know, out of some imagination that is not based on something that's real. There's so much evidence that what we're all four of us are talking about is based on something that is very real.
Right. But then tapping into the creative imagination to bring in the right energies to co-create this process with clarity and not having to sort through all the confusion and entangled, you know, thought forms and interferences. You know, I mean, all of you are just putting out just such incredible information. And I know, Brad, you're putting out this book. I mean, and all of you and the material you put out is so freaking timely, of course. But, you know, you have How to Get Out of the Enslavement, right? That's coming out. And do you have like tools and techniques for people to begin to cut away those harmful programs, or like what is sort of, what can we look forward to with that book? And then I want everybody to talk about what their next thing is, of course. But starting with you, Brad.
Sure. Well, of course, the book is pretty complex, but the three sections are going to be neo-fascism, showing how this government of ours has been taken over and made into a corporation, and all of us are entities on that corporate balance sheet. I go into the embargo, which Dan, of course, was on a panel talking about releasing this kind of free energy that would take us into this Star Trek generation. And now the final section that I'm working on now is called Ubermind, getting beyond transhumanism, looking at things that can heal us and help us all the way. And what I would say to people is try to just stay positive. Use this time to work on creative projects. Don't give in to despair. Don't give in to the fear or the anger about what's going on, or the schadenfreude and making fun of other people who are having a hard time through all this. Work on yourself. This is a great time to ascend personally, make some big changes in your own life, and then use this time as productively as possible. Good time to reconnect with your family. I know a lot of people are really are getting on each other right now, but it has to happen this way, that we go into this lockdown period, and well, to get rid of this virus, but also I think it really is a cleaning house right now, that the storm is upon us, and we're going to come out of this with some incredible news. So we may have to go through this period of a blackout, of not really knowing what's going on, maybe even seeing military exercises flying over or driving by. But Brooks made a great comment. As long as they're not UN and they're our own US military, which have all taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and protect us from enemies, international and domestic, that I think we're going to come through this in a positive way. And we should do this round table 6 weeks or 2 months from now, after all this, and see how many of these predictions that we're making today are going to come true.
Oh, I would love that. Absolutely. So but yeah, if you could tell us about, your website and what you've been putting out there. You've been doing some amazing stuff. All three of you, of course. And Dan, tell us about your website, and you just did some recent interviews with Michael Salla. How did that go?
Oh, I had a great interview with Michael. I put it up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Disclosure Witness. My online notes I was sharing with everybody, because after I went to Washington, I didn't understand, what happened. So I had to understand it. And so I put a chronology together going back to the 20th century. It's at thewebmatrix.net. Being a witness, I have made the conscious I even paid for my own way to go to Washington. I'm not going to make one penny at any of this, just because of the witness status. I want to maintain that there's no ulterior motive or anything like that. But I encourage everybody else who's doing books and everything like that. We need to educate the rest of the public. I'm just feeling really happy. I'm just enjoying what's going on right now, and I'm feeling kind of in a celebrative kind of state of mind. And I know it's strange. I know there's there's the left wing and the right wing, and the people who absolutely hate Trump, have been because of the weaponized media and everything like that. But I think, in talking to some of these and attempting to reconcile with the opposite side that's extreme, you find that at the core, everybody is against corruption, against children, about deceiving the public, about withholding technologies. Everybody, left and right, has a common. So I think there's a psychological operation that's going to ease all of the programming that has been going on through our mainstream media to the whole of the population, so that we can all be united in one race that's not being that we're not being weaponized against each other any longer, that we're all working together. And we know who the true enemy has been all these decades. And that's going to come into a public awareness, and that is a joyous thing.
It absolutely is. And before we get to you, Brooks, would you say that I don't want to say worst case scenario, but 5G rollout, mandatory vaccines, in the face of that, not really being able to protest, is just simple non-consent and making that loud and making those statements enough? If something rolled out tomorrow that is just another disappointment in the way that maybe the dark forces are trying to compromise us, what can we do as individuals in the here and now to just protect ourselves from those possibilities, even though they don't seem like they're going to manifest because of all these other things put in place? Is there any particular crystals or stones, or I've got I got more herbs and supplements and crystals. It's just like insane. Now I'm like, okay, I can probably, but what do you guys, if it was to breathe down our neck, what would you do if somebody was knocking on your door, metaphorically speaking, to do a vaccination, or 5G towers were being put in your local neighborhoods? What would be the first thing that you might react to in order to protect your energy field and to also create awareness, besides what you're already doing? I'm sorry if that's a tough question, but.
Load our guns and go to the underground bunker.
Right? We've started digging a hole, but we got quite a ways to go. But yeah, there's no point in looking at the worst case scenario. I just think, non-consent. It's one thing to be led, right, and just to follow whatever, but when we say, I do not consent, and we make these statements on a daily basis, and we also focus in on what we want to manifest, that can be, I don't know, do you think that's enough?
To say, I do not comply.
That's right. I'm with you, Brooks. I think if I was forced with a mandatory vaccination, I would tell the people who are trying to do this that we have laws against this. And it was the Nuremberg trials putting on the Nazis after World War II. and
Informed
saying,
consent.
yeah, that's right. You have to consent to any of these medical experiments. And I think untested vaccines are medical experiments on a
Right.
mass level.
And
So
that's the thing. Yeah.
I
Right.
And all a
have consent.
vaccine does is prevent the pharmaceutical company from being sued because it's a vaccine.
Right. So, I mean, the more we know, the better, because if we do have those kind of rights and people don't exercise those kind of rights, then they feel like they have no choice, or they think it's for their higher good. Oh, they must be doing this because this is to help us. So as long as we can continue these conversations and you continue to put your voice out to help people with discernment to navigate these crazy times, I just have so much deep respect for the three of you and your voices and what you have to share. And Brooks, I know you've got a book coming out and you've been kind of showing us. And what else do you have
Well,
going on?
I mean, what have you done for me lately? This book just came out this week, so it's pretty new. It's my 11th book, Asteroid Mining: The Future of Energy. It covers 4 things. It covers low Earth orbit, which is the mess we've made of the orbit around the Earth. The big exposure to that right now is not necessarily a missile or anything like that, but it's cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is the big risk in low Earth orbit right now, and there's a lot of things being talked about with respect to that exposure. And then cislunar, which is the space between Earth and the moon, and what's being done to map that and to put guideposts along the way so that it makes it far less risky for robotics and even manned missions back and forth to the moon. And then lunar settlement, setting up 3D printed structures, developing some of the volcanic vents so that we can have colonies under the ground that are protected from solar radiation. They can build atmospheres in there. They have microgravity in there. This is going to be done in the South Pole near Shackleton's crater. There's enough helium-3 there to power the world for 2,000 years in that one crater. We could convert all of the nuclear power plants on Earth over to helium-3 fusion and end nuclear waste forever. We could make electricity so cheap that it would be practically free to anyone who wants to use it. It would completely transform the planet. Then we talk about the space between Earth, between the moon and Mars. We call this cis-Mars. Right now we have to do a really complicated maneuver called the Hohmann maneuver, which is sort of like jumping from a moving train to an airplane. It has to be perfectly timed or you miss and you end up out in deep space. And we're trying to get ion drives and magnetic drives and fusion drives. Fusion rockets will change everything because it'll lower the amount of time it takes to go from the moon to Mars to about 60 days, which is a doable time. It's way better than 8 or 9 months. And then you can only do that certain times of the year. And then, of course, the asteroid belt, which is the 4th domain. This is a really strange one because it's all zero gravity. So people can't go out there and work for a lifetime. You can't have kids out there. That's a totally different thing. You don't have the ability to develop artificial gravity yet that I know of. So the asteroid belt is enormous. And then beyond that is the Oort cloud, which has got more material than, you could terraform every planet in the solar system with given enough time. The point is, platinum is out there, aluminum is out there, iron, nickel, titanium, lithium, everything we need is out there just floating. And a single asteroid could be worth Earth dollars, $4 trillion. One asteroid, one. And it would barely take a couple $100 billion to get to it. It is the future of energy. And it is going to start making not billionaires, but trillionaires. It's going to get to this Star Trek economy that Brad's talking about, because the money means nothing when you have that much value. And hopefully we get to the point where the 5th realm, which is L4 and L5, which are these gravity wells that sit along Earth's solar orbit around the sun, that are equidistant from the moon and the Earth. They're called L4 and L5. They're gravity wells. Normally they'd be loaded up with Trojan asteroids, but we could move our own asteroid in that space and turn it into a space station that would withstand solar radiation and provide a gateway to the stars.
Awesome. Thank you. So final question, at least from me, and then anything you guys want to, share as a closing.
We got to clean house first on this planet.
Right. So, we'll go around and have everybody, put your final words in, but do you all really feel the Draco reptilian agenda or the darkest of agendas that we've been dealing with? Do you feel the victory, and do you see or have heard anything about those that have been enslaved on other planets and used in slave labor or some sort of bartering or exchange? Do you see that taking place and it's stepping down into the physical, or do we still have that battle to contend with, or we're in the midst of it right now? Which do you resonate with most?
Yeah, I think, speaking with Dr. Sala and his latest book about the U.S. Air Force, their secret space program that got kind of in with the CIA and a whole Nazi thing back when your great-grandfather lost control, they've shifted alliances. They've moved from the Draco reptilians over to the Nordics. And the Nordics have far in advanced technology compared to what the Draco Federation has. So when you have military superiority, when you have higher advanced technology, I think they have it well in hand.
Right. Brad or Brooks?
Well, the Chinese have a character for crisis, and it means two things. It means danger, and it also means opportunity. And I think we're witnessing the opportunity to rid the planet of the Draco, the dark Archon network, bring in the light, align ourselves with the positive ETs, and reform this country. Here's something, you guys. Did you see that the podium at the press briefings in the White House, they have removed the United Nations flag, which was in the rear to the right. And also the seal, the presidential seal on the podium has been removed. And it just says the White House. So these are hugely symbolic moves, because what it's saying is we're no longer playing by the cabal's rule as United States corporation. We're moving back to becoming a republic. And let's face it, the United States is the bellwether country around the world. With our Constitution, with our military might, we are the nation that if we were to topple, then we could go into this very dark one world government, new world order, controlled by very elite technocrats who we don't even know who they are and they're not elected, or we could be getting rid of them and moving to this Star Trek future that I think is truly our destiny. And to do that, we do have to rid ourselves of this Archon network of the reptoids that have been underground and calling the shots for a long, long time. And it's time for the humans to take the sovereignty back on this planet. And that will radiate out.
Yes, absolutely. I look at it like we're going through a massive divorce as a humanity from the cabal. Any agreements we have, any relationship we still have with it, we are finally saying this relationship is not healthy. It's been betraying and deceiving. And ultimately, it's kept us in a low vibration of the negative ego construct it wants to sink us into and keep us addicted to. And I think it's a personal choice, like we've been talking about, to cut those ties and to declare that level of sovereignty over where we've ever been hooked into it on an ancestral level too, because we're healing so much on an ancestral level, that there's so many missions out there that we all share in common that don't really get much of a voice. And I'm just really glad that we've just covered so many topics. And so yeah, your answer to that question, Brooks, about draconian victory over the draconian empire.
Well, when I was finishing up Charm a Favor, which launched just after Christmas of 2018, I was feeling pretty low. And the reason is that what came out in that book not only was the Global Syndicate, which is pure draconian energy, but the fact that they don't like to lose, and that we've sort of driven them back into a corner. They're cornered. And a cornered beast is very, very dangerous. So the reason I was kind of blue about it is because I believed we were in the most dangerous spot that this republic has ever been in since the day it was formed. That the global syndicate is immensely powerful. Their weapons are dark and terrible, and they're scared and they're cornered, and their soldiers are being hit right and left. They're going to prison, they're resigning, they're losing their power, they're getting out of office where they can no longer help with their billions and
Oh
their
yeah, all the
authority.
CEOs stepping down is incredible. Anyway, keep
Absolutely.
going. Yeah. And next to him, all these
They're
human
huge.
trafficking being exposed. Anyway, keep going. Yeah.
So I think the draconian empire is crumbling, but make no mistake, the global syndicate's very powerful, and I think it is supernatural in its basis, and it's going to be almost impossible to defeat it. But now, after 2 years after the book came out, I'm feeling more like Dan. I'm feeling much more optimistic. I'm feeling that we have momentum is in our favor, that the light is going to win.
Yeah.
And hopefully we do it. Hopefully, whatever this virus was supposed to be, maybe it didn't get there. Maybe it got swapped out. Maybe our energetics neutralized it. I don't know.
Yep.
But I think this virus was meant to be something way worse than what it is.
Yep. And each one of us has to claim this victory by doing what it takes to make the personal changes so that we're living a way of life based on our higher mind and principles that are becoming a way of life. We're anchoring it into the physical plane so there's no contradiction, or living a double life, or having your higher self but you still hate your job and you're not doing something, you know, that makes the world a better place. I mean, people have to make these practical changes for that circulation to flow and manifest, for them to see, you know, that they are needing to push this in the right direction on a more personal level. And I also look at it like we can't wipe out the mosquito population, but understanding it, we can learn to protect ourselves. Get like the right candles, the right scents, the right essential oils, and the right mosquito net. We can deal with something that's adverse without it kicking our butt. Ultimately, it's only making us stronger and wiser.
Yep.
So, and you guys embody like taking on such a journey and coming up with nothing but brilliance and important information for the rest of us. And I'm so grateful that you all joined me. Is there any?
You do that.
Do what?
You embody that.
Well, thank you.
We all look up to you.
Oh, well, that's sweet. I just feel the soul family, and that's just, it's just incredible. So anybody have anything to say as a closing note before we say goodbye? And we'll definitely have to do this again.
Yeah,
Victory
I think
to the light.
What'd you say?
Victory to the light.
Nice.
You'll never take my freedom.
Any
and
closing
those who have been paying attention know that they tried several times. They tried to nuke Honolulu. They tried to nuke Japan. They all got taken out. They're on top of it. The Patriots are in control, and this pandemic is nothing. It's you know, considering what could have been, this is the perfect opportunity for transformation today.
And we've been dealing with the Pluto-Saturn conjunction, and it's on the South Node. We had an eclipse gateway in December and January, and basically the Pluto-Saturn conjunction on a South Node is the end of the old paradigm. But because the death process can involve even getting sick, because people are afraid to let go of the old paradigm, I mean, that is going to lower the immune system. But it absolutely is a time of transformation and letting the old fall away. And it's amazing. So this is an incredible time. Everybody feel a lot of hope, and just keep that creative flow going. And yeah, I will make sure to put all your info in the description. And it's hard to say goodbye, but you know, unless anybody has any questions or anything else to share, I'm just like ready to just sit back and just digest all this. What about anybody? We're good? Ready to close? I guess so. Okay. Well, thank you for your incredible presence. I feel so uplifted, and I will get this link to everybody and to you, and have a wonderful rest of your day, you guys, and we'll stay in touch.
So enjoy sharing it with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.